And next information about this campaign. There are two differences. The first difference is about calculation of the competitive mark or points, and that is in the draft law on higher education, which says that the competitive points that is related for every certificate of attestation, there is it receives a certain coefficient less than one unit, and the number of them will be like 1. So physics, and to enter physics in Kyiv Polytechnic, and it will have coefficient of 0.35.
Coefficient of Ukrainian language and literature for a specific university will have a quotient of 25. So you multiply your mark for the certificate by 0.35, and then you multiply the mark for the graduate certificate by 0.1 or less, depending on how the university stipulates, and in this way you calculate the competition mark. Also, the change about the priority of the applications submitted. What does this mean? As previously, the graduates can apply to 5 universities, and in each case they can submit 3 applications, so they can submit up to 15 applications at once. And for instance, if their priority is to enter the Shevchenko University chemistry course, then this is priority number 1 for them. And if they do not enter the university, if they do enter the university during their according to their first priority, then everything that is otherwise is not being taken into account. For instance, they also applied for the chemistry at the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute or university. Then in previous years we've seen a lot of cases when there was a lot of people who were admitted to different universities at once, and there was a lot of confusion, and representatives of OPORA can tell us more. Their research shows that in many universities a great part of the state financed places was distributed later, and the graduates met the situation when not necessarily the people who were next according to their applications or according to the quality of knowledge, but there were cases when people, for instance, knew better whom to contact, or the originals of the exams that were stored in different universities. So from this year they introduced the system of priorities. So after there will be a recommendation for entering, a person will get just 1 place at 1 university according to their priority of joining. The graduate, the applicant can see what is the number of marks, what is the quality of marks that they've got, and if they, for instance, join at the 5th priority, this means that the mark by which they could join their 4th priority was higher. So this is the major innovation, and this is a significant challenge for the ministry, but we do hope that this will help raise the transparency. And this is the end of my introduction, and now Mr. Dobrovy will speak. Good afternoon, dear friends. I have just came from the Secretariat of Application Commissions, and we gather all the workers there who take part in accepting the documents, and almost 900 people take part in this. So everyone who were ready to work tomorrow, we gathered them and told them about the peculiarities and specifics. But now I want to address not the colleagues and not the journalists, and even not the ministry. And we are grateful to Zina about the scientific component being taken into account. And our university has the best indicator of quotation in Ukraine, and this was we are very grateful for this, because sometimes it's hard to explain to our workers why we apply so many efforts if there's no significant assessment. But I'd like to address those who apply for the universities to use the electronic systems when they join the baccalaureate. Although we are ready to accept paper applications, we do have our own information system even before the state-wide was introduced, but it is now important for the applicants to use the information technologies, because the logistics is being changed now. A very simple example: if previously the applicant was met by a person who was checking paper documents and then introduced this in a soft copy in the evening, the operator has to meet the applicant now, who actually checks the blanks filled in by the applicant, and then everything happens. Regrettably, everything would be okay with the algorithm that is there, even taking into account the fact that this algorithm is different from classical option where there's only one changeable. Here we have a lot of out-of-context applications. The system shall work on several changeables, and from the point of view of information, this could be done within one day, but regrettably, independently of the ministry or universities, some factories do put brakes on the lists.
This way we have such a situation. I'm sure that it will be like this year, like before, and the choice of entrance will be irrational. From the point of view that priorities for today, it was we prohibited our people to comment and to give any advice on priorities. So that's right, and a duty of entrance, not even the parents, but the students. Entrance. There is no other way. That's why, if logistics is changed to this process, and the operator have to check whether they used application number one somewhere, because there are different imagination, and they can bring the first state application to us and to Kyiv. They can read rules of admission and all information about information materials. Sometimes people don't want that, and they say, you tell me. No. That's a duty of an entrant, that's a responsibility, that's their choice, and the trajectory of the future. And that's why we call it use electronic systems, and also we put computers for entrants to be able to use the database and to fill and to decide on the priorities. So that's please inform entrants about that. That is very important for us to have less complications when we process lists and recommendations, etc. The other point, and I would like to emphasize and to appeal to our colleagues from other universities, is the entrance admission campaign to master's programs, and during previous years, and I'm sure we'll have again, that those who graduate from bachelor's programs and they don't give the documents, and they believe that they should stay in the universities. Last year, for 2,000 seats, in our 100 university, 170 came those who came from other universities from bachelor's programs for the budget. Together with 700 people, together with those who on a contract, who graduated from other bachelor's programs in other universities and joined our university. It's very important because we have professions which are based on absence of bachelor's programs, and like high-tech profession and management of universities of business administration. That's why we're interested to receive strong students, entrants who will graduate from our strong university for them for self-improvement and to. We open a lot of programs with joint programs with Western universities, and this year administrative law with Nicholas America's University in Germany, they pass German accreditation. That will be the first case in Ukraine when master's program will receive German accreditation, and it is considered to be the second in the world after English. And we had several other several programs, so that's why we're interested in good entrance, and they should make their conscious step. And the third point I would like to emphasize to wish all entrants, their parents, the staff of reception commissions, admission commissions, to be tolerant. And good luck, because in this, when there is so hot, and directly and indirectly, there can be different circumstances. That's why not we Ukrainians are good used to that we are trying to find some negative, something negative, and everything is bad, or they are bad, and or something else. That's why there could be objective difficulties, and a month ago, during one condition and service room stopped, and for the whole day, there are some technical circumstances. So we're trying to explain all that. But we also ask journalists who write about this admission campaign and participants to come to one point. We need to do this, that everybody receives, understands that the trajectory for the future, and for every university to find its students.
Thank you. To give an advice to applicants, I do support the position of Volodymyr. We do recommend to apply electronically because this is cheaper and faster, and of course during such heat you should not join the queues and to the application commissions, and you can do this from the comfort of your home. Another great advice to all the applicants, because tomorrow we have the first day of the application campaign, do not be hasty, do not make haste, because every year we see on every channel, television channel, the great numbers of people at universities, but you actually can bring it much later. It will have the same weight and significance, irrespectively of when you submitted it. Especially, you know, when the applicant applies later than they, for instance, have a better view of the competition situation. Why should we apply where we don't have any chance to get to? So, in addition to the advice to apply electronically, I do recommend applicants not to make haste. There's 3 weeks to submit your documents. This is more than enough, and you can better orient yourself when a part of the applications are already submitted. You should make time. I give the floor to the representative of Donetsk National University in Vinnytsia. Hello, colleagues. I am Rostyslav Podolsky, Prorector on Scientific and Training Work of the Donetsk National University in exile. We moved here in September 2014, and in principle we start our new life in Vinnytsia. And despite the new life that we are starting, the problems of the entering campaign are actually the same as we used to have in recent years. Great risks that the applicants have to meet while they are submitting applications, because this is rather hard to choose from among 15 possible places of studies, and of course there's also a burden of friends and parents who are advising where to apply, and some technological unpreparedness to take part in the system of electronic application, although this is really a priority and probably the best and the most correct, especially for those universities that were transferred from the temporarily occupied territories. Now, for such universities, the biggest problem is the fact of applying by those applicants and citizens of Ukraine who want to continue their studies at the Ukrainian universities, but because of different reasons they are at occupied territories. The system of passes and permits that is now in action does not provide you an opportunity to react swiftly. We try to solve this issue through notarized applications, through given an opportunity to come later, through some preferences. However, we understand very well that with the situation that there is in place in Ukraine, because of the combat that continues, very often the applicants will submit the documents that cannot be recognized by Ukraine. We have such cases. The certificates on general secondary education issued by the so-called republics, and also baccalaureate diplomas, BA diplomas, issued by the non-existent republics. So the commissions that will work with these applicants will have a lot of questions about how to treat these cases and how to arrive at decisions that will later influence the vector of development and the way of life of these people. In general, the universities, if we take the contacts with the evacuated universities, yes, they are ready to admit applicants. There's a unified system of ranking and marking, and we are working not with a great number of applicants, but with some electronic profiles, which naturally fastens, accelerates the work. So in general, we are ready. Thank you. On the part of the Ministry of Education and Science, I want to tell you that taking into account the situation in the universities, the ministry cannot help you a lot because there's a lot of problems that are linked to things that are beyond our sphere of control. But we do provide the places for the state commission to the evacuated universities, taking into account their capacity, as not every university was evacuated to the same tune. There are some universities that came here in lesser numbers, but of course the Donetsk National University will get state-financed places, because we do think that it is necessary to support these universities as much as is possible within our opportunities. Before I give the floor to Natalia, I want to tell you that the distribution of the state-financed places, the general amount of them which are being adopted by the Cabinet of Ministers, they were late, you know, because only on the 7th of July, the day before yesterday, we got the general amount of those places, and only now we can see the general picture and provide this volume to the universities. This is a very, very short time, but we can guarantee that today, by the end of the day, before the official campaign starts, the places will be distributed between the universities, and we will publish this information on the website of the Ministry of Education and Science. But this is, we apologize, but it is really not because of our fault. This is because the Cabinet of Ministers and the Ministry of Economy have been late. But of course, there are places for the exiled universities. So my intervention is over, and Natalia, the world is yours. Natalia Radysh, Civic Network OPORA. There's a lot of innovations this year, and the success of the application and admittance campaign this year does depend on the ministry that has to provide for the technical component of the single state electronic database, and it also depends on application and admittance commissions that have to work with the applicants and to explain to them a lot. And the third factor is the applicants, of course. This year they have to understand that they carry much greater responsibility than in recent years or last year. They have to understand that, first of all, they have to understand what priorities are. In recent years, they had a situation when, for instance, there is a direction of preparation at the university where they teach at several departments. And last year, for instance, they applied to several departments but one specialty, so this was treated as one application. But now this is different. For instance, if they apply to computer technology at Kyiv Polytechnic and the training is at 3 different departments, then this will be considered 3 applications. Last year, for instance, people could apply to 20 different universities. Now the applicant has to understand they have 15 applications max. And as Katerina said, you should not make haste and apply during the first day. For instance, tomorrow we'll get the number of state-financed places. But as far as other specialties are concerned, the number of state-financed places has to be distributed within the university within 3 days. And we can, for instance, explain this taking this translation as an example. For instance, they have 150 state-financed places where translation is concerned, but then the university distributes it between English, German, and other languages. So the applicant has to wait until the final redistribution, and they have to understand this is final, and there won't be changes in the amount of state-financed places as it used to be in recent years. And when they have these figures, and when they calculate the mark they have to get into a university, they really can have a different ranking mark at different universities, which is linked to different quotients that are applied to their certificates. For instance, if they join the English translation, the quotient will be 0.4. Then when they apply to this specialization, their ranking mark is going to be higher if in comparison to when they join the Ukrainian language, if the quotient for English will be 0.2. So this system probably looks a bit inexplicable, but if you open the rules and the appendixes 3 or 4, there you will see the quotients that are being applied. The applicants know their results. They can sit down and calculate every ranking mark at every university where they plan to try their hand to apply. And we do insist and we recommend that the applicants first know where they want to join. They study all the opportunities and possibilities, and then they will only have to choose the university. And if they still hesitate whether they want to be a medic or a computer specialist, then they will be in a difficulty. But let them compose a chart. 5 universities, 3 specialities, and then they compose all the applications, then they rank their priorities, think them over, they make sure that these are their priorities and state-financed seats, places, and only then they go and apply and submit their applications. If they have actually designated their first priority, they cannot change this. I know that there's been a lot of repetitions when applicants call hotlines and then they say, I was mistaken, I didn't know that there's the same specialty at this university. So I address you, the applicants, first think and then make your choice, because you won't be able to change your priority. And the last point I want to stress: on the 4th of August, when the ranking lists will be published of those who are recommended to be admitted, and every applicant will get only one recommendation for a state-financed seat, where their ranking mark allows them to get a state-financed place. We do foresee the fact that not everybody will submit original documents, and some will, for instance, want to pay for their studies themselves, and there will be a state-financed place which will be vacant at this or that university. So you should pay attention to the fact that until the 12th of August, the vacant state-financed places will be offered to those applicants who submitted original documents to the paid form of training. So if there are 10 places and one of those who did not submit original documents, then there is one vacant place. So the one applicant who has the highest mark among those who applied for paid studies, they have the opportunity to be transferred to the state-financed place. And I think this is all.
Thank you, Natalia. Do you have any questions from journalists or from our colleagues? We'll be happy to answer. Kyiv TV channel, how many universities are evacuated? Currently we have 16 higher educational institutions evacuated from Donbass and 6 research institutions. Part of them are evacuated to their former branches. For example, Luhansk University relocated to their college, while Donetsk University has chosen the most extreme strategy because this was forced choice for them, and they have chosen absolutely new location, and currently they are building up the university from scratch there. Any further questions? Good afternoon. I'm Katerina from Pravda Tut publication. Those school graduates who come from the ETO zone, whether they will have any preferences. Do you mean the servicemen retire, or do you mean the residents? If you mean servicemen from the ATO zone, in the context of political and military situation, there are 2 categories of people who have privileges during this entry campaign. These are children who remained orphans. These are children of servicemen who fall or were killed in the ATO zone. The second category, those soldiers who were demobilized this year from the ATO zone, they have the right to entry universities without independent external exams, and because part of them were demobilized after the exam campaign, that's why after coordination with the Minister of Defense, we offered this possibility to the former servicemen. If the servicemen demobilized from the army, they managed to pass the external entry exams and have certificates, they can follow the original procedure. There is one more privileged category of in line with the law of passed on May 14th, the IDP school graduates, they also have privileges, but their education should be partially or fully compensated on the account of the local budgets. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Education found it impossible to finance education of such children, but nevertheless, they do not have any preferences during entry campaign. Probably there should be separate vacant positions for these students. Maybe they will also, these children will be given possibility to live in student hostels free of charge. The universities cannot do this, but the government can make decision, and in this case we will be able to do this. So the category of IDPs have some privileges. Beginning from winter period, the issue of provision to IDPs some privileges during entry campaign. But in Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, we now have around 20,000 people who have passed entry exams, and while 20,000 of applicants, when we have only 90,000 vacancies for the state order, that is for free student places, vacancies. That's why there is almost 30%, and if we provide those 20,000 with the privileges, other school graduates will believe that we gave some privileges to those who maybe not deserve them because they worked hard to enter the university. That's why we worked with the legislators in a direction that if those IDPs they manage to enter paid student positions, then they will be partially compensated from the state budget, but this is not decided yet. And also I would like to underscore the issues mentioned by my colleague, that some school graduates from Donbass, they have problems with the crossing the delineation line, and we asked the enforcement agencies whether it is possible to simplify the procedure for such school graduates, and they tried to do this by introducing the electronic passage system, and but nevertheless, unfortunately, this has not improved the situation fully. Unfortunately, 70% of additionally registered for external exams, these were those people who were not the school graduates. These were adults who graduated from school long ago, and they just used pretext of university exams to cross the delineation line, and the border service had to check the personalities of those people and their real intentions. Whether there are any further questions? If there are no questions, then we are very grateful for your explanation, and we hope that you will be heard not just by journalists but also the future students. And in half an hour we will have the news from OSCE.